Hey, welcome to Terza TV. This is another thrilling episode. Being on a roll, it seemed appropriate to throw one out. And I wanted to start off on a really positive note. Thank you. We've hit 31 subscribers, which is actually pretty cool. I wasn't sure we would ever get to this point, considering that there was a long, nebulous space where there was nothing. That's actually pretty good. And for the people that stuck around, thank you very much. For the people that are joining up, thank you very much. This is how the channel grows. So I just wanted to get that out there and start off the day right. Now, today's topic, learning, beginner mind, that kind of thing. I just got back from the gym. And that was an adventure. Today was leg day, and everyone says don't neglect leg day, which my friend and I who go to the gym don't. But something funny always seems to happen. It's someone will. I mean, the past couple of times somebody's commented, and like one time it was this young lady who was like, "Wow, hey, you guys are doing that, cool," and we put a number of 45-pound plates on the thing, on the machine, when we start. And, we have a policy that if you're lifting, you're doing what you can. And that's kind of an important thing because we're not actually in competition. My friend Terry and I, we don't compete with each other, especially on the rope pull, the rope pull. That's just a little nudge to Terry, who's probably watching this. Anyhow, so one week it was somebody who's like, "Hey, it was a point of, I'd say semi-impressed, which was nice." And then today we had somebody who's like, "How much is that? The weight?" And about 540 on the leg press. And, I'm in the machine. Now, when I get into the leg press machine, I actually have to grab my leg and put it in position, which is kind of a weird thing, but, that's what I have to do. So that's what I do. And, his comment, the guy that was commenting, his comment kind of sounded like, "I didn't think you could do that." It had that little incredulous tone to it. Which is fine. And then we proceeded to add more weight to it, So, we got up to, I think I got up to like six something before my knee decided that spongy was the way to go. And so rather than have my knee live in a, I don't even know SpongeBob. I was going to make a SpongeBob joke, but I can't actually make a SpongeBob joke because I've never watched it. I'm old. Anyhow, it was a neat moment because it illustrated that there's what you can do, what you think you can do, what you want to do. And when someone else gets inside that, it messes it up. But that's learning, messing up what you can do, what you think you can do, what you want to do. When you mess with that, you learn stuff. So I've fallen down a karate rabbit hole lately. I'm kind of enamored right now with Okinawan schools like Miyagi-Do, Goju-Ryu, Shorin-Ryu, Shotokan. And I found out, being a history nerd, I was kind of diving into the history of things, and I found out that a lot of the big kicks apparently are from French savate, which is shoe fencing, apparently what it was called. I don't know for sure if it was called shoe fencing, but it kind of makes sense. And so those big kicks to the head, the long kicks, high kicks, those were all apparently French influence on karate, because karate was starting up and it needed some kind of grip onto and something flashy. And so Gengichi Funakoshi's son introduced those kicks into Shotokan. So, I've been watching videos on, does karate work, and there's this whole thing with MMA now saying, all these other martial arts are all fake. And it was interesting because along with the karate videos were, guest appearances by Aikidaka or, Wing Chun practitioners. And, these are martial arts that get picked on for being ineffective. I'll be honest with you, the video I watched on the Aikidaka, sparring with a Shotokan guy was very enlightening, because the Aikidaka just got inside and stepped around and, repeatedly dumped the other guy. And, they're all wearing safety gear. So, they weren't really pulling punches, but you could tell by how the guy was moving, this is how he fights. This is not demo thing. He was inside, and he would use a lever point, the head or things. And he didn't do joint locks. He didn't do anything that you could resist against, because you would tense up and that would alert you that something's coming. He would just kind of get in there and the head goes over and the guy goes down, which is very contradictory to the way Aikido is presented. The Wing Chun guy, the video I watched, with the Wing Chun guy, very, very interesting. Chain punching, using your limbs as blocking or deflection points, those short little punches that, they kind of, hands like that and bang, and they're all working, and the people that are studying these things are putting a lot of work into it, and they're getting results. So one of the culminating videos is they had a young man who's been doing karate since he was 3, and he spent time with the Karate Nerd. By the way, that's the Karate Nerd, great channel, great guy, very insightful. And so this young man studied with the Karate Nerd for one day. This is the shtick of that page, that channel. I'll put a link below in the description eventually, where, he studies it. Studies is a loose term, but he experiences an art for one day and then sees if he can apply things. And with the Karate Nerd, he got some real practical advice, in striking, in moving, and kata and blocking and things like that. And some of it was really, really neat. But one of the bits of instruction was, move around, move in, move out, move around. And it came time to test out. And the joke of the episode is he's going to, the young man is going to avenge his friend, the Karate Nerd, because someone on another YouTube channel who runs a gym that he knows made fun of him, some guy named Mike. And Mike is a very interesting dude because he's really short, really skinny, really wiry, clearly, grapple and kick, Muay Thai style kickboxing and things like that. And they went a few rounds with the students. And the karateka had a really good grasp of a bunch of different things. He's got, experience since he was 3 to, I think he's in his late 20s. He did rather well. And the best part of the video is Mike, the Muay Thai kickboxing MMA guy, was talking to the Karate Nerd the way teachers talk, and he's leaning up on the wall and going, yeah, this was very different. He was in, and, he wasn't moving the way he normally does. And it was really disconcerting, and it really worked. And that was kind of fun. to see, because it basically said, if you train an art, and in fact, I think the comment was made, if I give you like a fluffy bunny, I think they said fluffy bunny, and you train with a fluffy bunny, you'll probably be deadly with it, by the time you're done training with it. So there's this idea, this contemporary thing going around of people denigrating other arts and styles and things like that isn't really working and isn't really true, because, you train well, and you get results, which got me thinking about, how did martial arts get here, where it's this very seemingly divisive thing? And I think it comes down to wish fulfillment and wishful thinking. To elaborate on that, I was at practice last night, and I wasn't feeling well. I've been having like lightheaded, dizzy spells, which I think are just vertigo. As you age, things get loose in your head and your inner ear, and you're like, they bump around in there, and you're like, wow, that was some good squishy. I ain't gonna sit down, and you don't have an option. You're down. So I was at practice because I was an extra set of eyes and checking things out. And I had to fight a guy who's going into a big tournament. And by the way, good luck. And at one point, I walked out of my shoe. My shoe was loose or something. I just stepped right out of it. And I'm still fighting. I didn't stop. And the guy goes, "You want to stop and put your shoe on?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm good." And we kept on going. And the whole exchange got me thinking about it. In the period manuals, a lot of times they're set up, this, I'm now talking about historical manuals for European fencing, 16th, 17th century. They're set up as dialogues: teacher, student. And we all know it's the teacher asking the question that the student, there is no student. But in these dialogues, it appears so. And one of the common questions you see, a few times, I got in trouble. I'm going to have a duel tomorrow. What would you teach me? And like Saviola goes, "Well, I would put you in this ward, and I would instruct you to do this, 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 and this." And it just got me to thinking, stuff doesn't change. Now, Saviola was speaking as a professional. His occupation was arms. His, mercenary, fighter, soldier, instructor. And he instructed. He was in England. He taught out of Blackfriars. And he taught basically side sword, spada del lato. By the way, thank you, David Biggs, for that. We had a really interesting late night conversation about it once, because I was a Saviola fiend. And, when he and I met, I don't want to say for the first time, but when we really sat down and talked for the first time, it was 2005 in Atlanta at an SCA event. And I was teaching a Saviola class, and he was teaching Capoferro, which was really, really good. I knew I was going to like him from the moment he said, "Okay, everybody, if you're serious, take your shoes off." I'm like, "You got it." Shoes go fly. But anyway, Saviola, professional teacher of fencing in England, much to the chagrin of George Silver, who's like, that stuff doesn't work. Well, the body count for rapier is high. It's disgustingly high. So it worked. A lot of what a seasoned rapier fighter and instructor was afraid of was an idiot with a sword. Because the idiot with the sword didn't know the rules. And so a lot of your training was to deal with idiots with swords. It's interesting how things haven't changed. You go into the modern world, you got people who compete, you got people who challenge, very different thing. There are people that go around school to school and challenge people to fights to prove, they film them now, put them up on YouTube to prove that they're tough, which is kind of like, tell me how you're not tough, by your actions. And, the thing you've always, as a martial artist, the thing you always got to be thinking about in the back of your head is, an idiot with a boxing glove, or an idiot with a sword, or a knife, or whatever. You got to think about how you're going to approach that. Now, one way is with what's known as beginner mind. Now, beginner mind is an interesting concept that a lot of people talk about. It's essentially being open to what's happening. A lot of people use it as a teaching metaphor. Beginner mind. You take Bruce Lee's classic thing. With a glass of water going, glass is half full, or if the glass is full, you've got to empty your cup so that we can put better information in there, or different information in there. I don't necessarily like that, because you can't abandon what you've learned. It's always with you. You've learned it. So I always thought of beginner mind as like, okay, what are we doing? We're doing that. So, you see, and people tell you what they are by how they fight. Now let's take this a step further. You get into jiu-jitsu, the Gracies, big, powerful family, very, very skilled. Jiu-jitsu in the U.S. in particular, I think internationally, is where it is because the Gracies did very well in things like the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and people who trained with them did do well in MMA now and things like that. At one point, the Rangers, the military, adopted their style of jiu-jitsu as part of the training. I think. I'm not in the military, never was, so I can't say for sure. You just hear things. Not taken away from anything they do. They're highly skilled individuals. But there's one thing to always keep in mind. The Gracies all train professionally. They are instructors in fighting. Like Saviola was an instructor. They have a definite advantage that they, train, 8 hours a day. Maybe they take a breather to teach a class, but they're still working. They're always refining technique. They have competitive experience. But they do it all the time, every day, all the time. You can't help but get good with that. And they're at a level of competition where, there was a guy from Japan that had the moniker the Gracie Hunter because he would go and he'd compete against them and take them out using karate. But somebody like me or you or not going to have much of a chance. You get to grapple with one of those guys, they're going to twist you up like a pretzel, and you're going to look like you belong on that Good Eats show with that guy with the glasses that I'm not going to mention because I'm kind of ripping off his idea for a style. You're just a pretzel, and that's good wrestling. And what do you do with that? How do you look at that and go, how do I get that good? Well, the answer is you don't. I mean, you can train. In fact, I have a friend who, dear friend, who we were going over the math on his martial experience. He did 7.5 years of karate. He eventually achieved the rank of a 3rd degree black belt, which is really impressive. And the guy was a brilliant technician, and he 7.5 years dedicated. And he, like when he worked out, he would do sets of 200 of whatever, and then, that would be his thing. At one point, his body fat was, his doctor was saying, okay, sandwich or death, that kind of thing. And he's an extreme. And we were talking one day, and I asked him, what would you do differently? And I think basically his answer was, well, I would have trained very differently, trained for longevity or whatnot. And he can answer to that, and he'll probably see this and answer that and correct me, which is great. Most people can't do that. Most people can't do that. They can't sit down and do 600 crunches in a session. They just can't. They have life, bills, family, home, all sorts of stuff. I had a teacher once tell me, you just have to practice an hour a day. There are 24 hours in a day. How much time do you waste? That's fair, But the amount of dedication it takes to get that good, you're at a professional level. So, beginner mind, we're back to that. Let's come around the circle. What can you do? What hope do you have? Because, you're outclassed. Well, pay attention. Now, my friend that I mentioned before, who does all the crunches and did all that stuff to become very good, he also did what he calls, and I love this name. In fact, he's going to be teaching me some of it, crunch and splat. And this is the crunch. The floor is the splat. So, what do the high level practitioners have that, you don't, I don't have? And to pick whatever art you're in. If you're in HEMA, if you're in the SCA, if you're in, your local jiu-jitsu club, local karate federation or whatnot. On that level, the non-professional instructor level, the people that are really good, what do they have that you don't? I'm going to say beginner mind. And when you break beginner mind down, what is a beginner mind? It's easy. It's paying attention. Taking what you think you know, what you should know, and what there actually is. And leaning heavier onto what actually is. So that's beginner mind. Oh, my opponent is standing up straight. Okay, what does that tell me? And they moved their back foot. What does that tell me? Oh, now they're back weighted. They're going to move that front foot. Or let's take a case from last night. My instruction to the person that I was fighting was, you got to move to the sides. You can't come head on, because that's where the teeth are. You got to approach it from the side. And so he would shove his body in the direction he was going to move before he moved. He would make a big dramatic motion to shift his weight. I'm like, oh, okay. And I would just shift over, put a sword in the way, that kind of thing. Paying attention. Half of martial arts, no. You learn all these techniques. Let's take Italian rapier. Going from secunda or terza. And by the way, what weird camera thing. Secunda, knuckles up. Terza, knuckles out. And you go to quarta by turning your hip. Knuckles down. And then you step. And you pull what's called an inquartata. Now you learn this, to learn an inquartata is a complex action. You're You've got foot placement, hip rotation, upper body rotation that's related to the hip rotation. So there's a spiral thing going on, and it's a lot, and there's a timing issue, what goes first, how is the foot play, all these little moving bits and pieces. And so you learn all these bits and pieces in a very complicated move to pull an incortada, and it looks really impressive. Your face is pointed somewhere else, sword is up, you're at an angle, their blade is off in the hinterlands, and you're so confident you're looking away from them so that you can move out of the way. Yeah. Fancy move. Now, I had an opportunity at Syracuse University to look at a 16th century copy of, I believe, Agrippa, that had the incortada in it, and it's got all those lines, and those lines are telling you how low you can go, the angles you can get, and things like that. But the best part is underneath this beautiful engraved print. It said Albert Fini 17 something. One interpretation is Albert got frisky, tried it in incortada, and got it. Just done. Does that mean the incortada is impossible? No. To quote Tom Leone, just because you can't do it doesn't mean it doesn't work. But there's another important part, and this is where the learning part of our discussion comes in. All those little pieces that you had to learn in that chain to get an incortada to go are important. They're vitally important. They're without them, your fight is not really a fight. If you can't move your feet in time, if you can't move your body in time, if you can't efficiently move your hips in relation to your shoulders and your feet, get that little spiral going. By the way, that little spiral is one of my teachers was very, very big into spirals. And the smaller you could make it, the better it was. And by the way, yes. Anyhow, that's side tangent aside. The learning process of learning something as complex as an incortada gives you so many little tools. So many little tools that your fighting improves. Now, you may never throw an incortada in a fight. In fact, most martial artists, when they fight, they have half a dozen, 8 moves that they do over and over again, just in different timings, different combinations. The solid go-to stuff. One that I saw that I really liked, the reverse punch comes out. The guy threw the reverse punch and his elbow's hanging out. I'm like, that's going to be a broken arm, or that's not, because that was his block, that shape. So he's reverse punch. Someone's striking him, and he goes hook, and punch goes off into space. But that's a little detail, and that was in a kata somewhere, and he figured out how it goes. But he had a very interesting take on that too. He said, we teach everything backwards. We teach kata, and then we teach application. You should teach application first and then teach the kata, because the kata is, as Wayne says, ritualized combat for the purposes of instruction. So you learn how to punch, and then you learn a kata. You learn the bits, and then you learn the kata, and then you can go into the kata and go, hey, that's a this. And that's something that my friend Wayne is exceedingly good at, is looking at kata and going, what can I do with this? And one thing that, by the way, that we're working on is a little mini documentary about kata, getting different people's perspective on what kata is. And that'll be coming in the future when we have a travel budget and stuff like that. So to circle back to beginner mind is just paying attention. seeing what is actually there, not what you think is there. And the reason why they are always telling high level instructors, get your beginning mind back into shape, is because they have so much education, so much to sift through, that they miss the obvious. The guy in front of him moved his foot forward about a half an inch, and now he's got his kick lined up. Don't always see the little stuff because you're looking for the big thing. So that's how to learn. Pay attention. Embrace your beginning mind. Realize that, you're never going to be perfect, but you can be annoying. And by the way, beginner mind is an excellent way to be aggravating to whoever you're fighting. Because if you're paying attention to what they do, they are telling you, they're laying it out for you. Oh, by the way, this is happening, and I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then there's going to be a little splat and some crunch and a little pop. Your face is going to feel like Rice Krispies, or whatnot. They're telling you all this stuff ahead of time about how they're moving and how they're holding themselves. So you just kind of watch that, and you relax. That's the other thing about beginner mind. And when I watched that Akitaka move, the guy was utterly and totally relaxed. He gave no care in the world. He just did what he was going to do. And what he did was get inside another guy's weapons, arms and legs, and dumped him. Beep. And that's really the secret. Do what you're going to do. Do what you're going to do really well. Don't care about the other guy. Don't care about what they're going to do, because you're going to react to the motion. You're not reacting to Bob, your opponent. You're going, oh, sword coming this way. Oh, coming down the center line. That's what you're looking for. They're coming into the teeth. And just do your 5, 6, 7 moves. Take what's offered and go from there. Anyhow, that has been today's little talk of Terza TV. I hope you find it useful. I can't believe it's 32 minutes and 24 seconds. By the time I'm done talking, it's going to be a little longer. But again, really appreciate your support. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Hit the like button. Let us know that you're out there. And if you have any ideas for future topics or things you want spoken about, put in some comments. Keep an eye out. We're going to be doing Patreon really soon because we've hit the threshold where that's now a curiosity to see what's going to happen with that. But anything with Patreon will help the channel grow. It'll help it prosper, and we'll get into bigger and better things. All right, I'll see you in the list.